When I first got a PlayStation 3 back in 2008, my favorite game at the time was Metal Gear Solid 4. It was my first Metal Gear game. At the time, all I knew about Metal Gear Solid was that Snake is in Smash Bros. Brawl. Yeah, my head wasn't filled with endless amounts of knowledge yet at the time. And now I can tell you that you can microwave a hot dog for approximately 30 seconds before it explodes. In Metal Gear Solid 4, an Altair costume could be acquired by Snake by entering a code. I had no idea who that was, but notice that Snake now bends his ring finger in a weird way. Piquing my curiosity, I ended up getting the game that this weird fingered hooded guy is from. The first game to ask the question, what if there was a knife strapped to your wrist? Leading me to discover what would become one of my favorite game series, my discovery of Assassin's Creed. Except that one. And maybe that one. In a time before Ubisoft discovered microtransactions, Ubisoft Montreal was developing a co-op Prince of Persia game, titled Prince of Persia: Assassins, where instead of playing as the prince, we would play as an assassin that's escorting a prince. It kinda sounds like Resident Evil 4, when you're escorting Ashley everywhere. Ubisoft was like, I don't know, kinda weird not playing as the prince in Prince of Persia, so Ubisoft Montreal ended up removing the prince, and based the game around Templar Knights and Assassins during the 12th century. So taking the prince out of Prince of Persia, Assassins, we were left with just Assassins. And that was how they came up with Assassin's Creed, which also dug a grave for Prince of Persia. In this video, I'll be covering the first game, diving into the story, mechanics, and the world building that started off the entire series. So let's strap on our hidden blades, put up our hoods, and leap in. The game starts us off in the middle of some garden, where our protagonist seems to be heavily tripping on LSD. I don't really know what's going on, so I start savagely beating everyone in my immediate vicinity. A slideshow of someone's vacation photos flash across the screen, and we wake up.
I told you he'd be fine.
We play as Desmond Miles, a bartender with no connections to the assassins.
But I'm not an assassin. Not anymore.
Okay, never mind. He was an assassin, but has since left the order. This grouchy geriatric raisin here is Warren Vidic, the shot caller. He needs Desmond to go into a machine and relive his ancestor's life to help him achieve his goal. A goal that has not yet been disclosed. The young woman is Lucy Stillman. She's basically Warren's ass slave, and does everything he says. She acts kind of like the good cop in the situation. Essentially, we're kidnapped by the company that Vidic and Lucy work for, called Abstergo. Kinda like the Coca-Cola conglomerate, but instead of soft drinks, it's drugs. The plan is to force Desmond into a machine called the Animus. It's kind of like the nerve gear from Sword Art Online. But instead of playing MMOs against your will, you're reliving your ancestors' memories against your will. You can only relive the memories of people who you're related to. So you can't just press the Jesus button and all of a sudden relive his life, unless you're related to him. The ancestor whose memories we'll be diving into this game is Altair, an assassin from the 12th century. He looks exactly like Desmond, except he is wearing a hood. And he is the highest ranked assassin in the Assassin Order. Vidic is trying to reach a specific memory, but Desmond is currently not accustomed to the Animus yet. So he would have to work his way there from memories further back. We get thrown into a boring tutorial section while Gladys from Portal 2 gives us the rundown.
Attempting to restore synchronization.
So I might as well go over the synchronization mechanic. On the top left corner of the screen, instead of calling it a health bar, in this game, it's called the synchronization bar. It refills when you're acting like how Altair acted in the past, like by following the Assassin's Creed. That being, stay your blade from the flesh of the innocent, hide in plain sight, and don't compromise the Brotherhood. As we go through the game, the cap for the bar raises, due to Desmond being more synchronized with Altair. It goes down when you get hit, fall from a high point, or kill innocent people. That includes punching them, which I do a lot in this game. So technically, Altair never did any of that stuff. When fully synced, or at full health, Altair is able to use an ability called Eagle Vision. It's more like Owl Vision, since you can rotate your head like an owl does. Can eagles do that too? It shows you who's friendly, who's neutral, who's an enemy, and who is our assassination target. That's pretty much it for now, so let's move on with the story. Even though the tutorial told us not to kill anyone innocent, the first thing Altair does is stab the first innocent guy he sees. Our mission here is to retrieve some ancient artifact for our master. We are accompanied by two other assassins. Kadar? Kadar? How do you pronounce that? He praises our display of skill for killing the innocent guy.
An excellent kill. Fortune favors your blade.
So, I guess he's kissing Altair's ass. The other assassin is Malik, and he seems to be on our ass about everything.
I would not have drawn attention to us. I would not have taken the life of an innocent.
He's Kadar's brother. With the guy kissing our ass and another guy on our ass, the only way to go is forward. Up ahead, we're introduced to one of the assassin's enemies, and this game's villain, Robert de Sable.
The sooner we can turn our attention to those jackals at Masyaf.
He looks really familiar.
It gets bigger when I pull on it.
Huh, maybe he's the same actor. Altair takes his chance to kill Robert by getting everyone's attention, getting his ass thrown to the other side as the wall breaks, then leaves the two other assassins to pay for his mistake.
Men, to arms! Kill the assassins!
As you can see, Altair's a pretty cool guy. Within the first 5 minutes of playing as him, we broke every rule in the Assassin's Creed. To top it all off, he just goes home after a city, Masyaf, and also basically our headquarters.
He returns at last.
On our way to Masyaf Castle, we get antagonized by this other assassin, and Altair scares him off with a really weird threat.
Another word and I'll put my to your throat.
I get the feeling that Altair has a lot of people that don't like him in the Order, since he's allegedly the Master's favorite, but also seems like the too cool for rules kind of guy. We inform our master, Mualim, of our failure to retrieve the artifact, and he gets pissed. But before we're done talking, an injured Malik returns, unfortunately without his brother.
Malik.
I still live at least.
But Malik was able to retrieve the artifact. Wait, he has one arm injured, and he would need the other one to hold the artifact. How the hell did he climb out? However,
We are under attack. Robert de Sable lays siege to Masyaf's village.
the artifact was not the only thing that Malik brought home. The Templars, including Robert, have followed him back. With our village and castle besieged, Mualim comes up with a plan. He wants us to jump 50 feet down into a pile of hay. This is called the Leap of Faith. You see, the Leap of Faith consists of two components, the leap and the faith. You're putting all your faith in this leap that you're performing. Otherwise,
My back! Oh, my back!
we climb up this tower and set off a trap. We end up saving the day that we put into danger in the first place. Afterwards, Mualim calls out Altair for breaking all the tenets of the creed. Malik has told on us, and Altair gets publicly executed. The shock of getting stabbed causes Desmond to desync from the Animus. Lucy convinces Warren to give us a break, and they walk out for a discussion. This is gonna be an ongoing annoyance in most Assassin's Creed games. Every time you start getting into the story, they rip you right out and throw you into the modern day sections. The story, at least for the first 5 games, is really interesting. However, it kills the pacing of the game. The excuse used for this annoyance is that if Desmond goes into the Animus for too long without breaks, he may die. With that said, Warren decides to call it a day and lets us rest. Whenever Warren leaves the room, we are able to talk to Lucy. Every time we talk to her, we learn more about the world and the characters' backstories, which is a nice organic way of letting the player slowly learn about the lore. Since you can mostly ignore Lucy if you're only playing this game to stab people.
So you're really an assassin?
Wanting to impress Lucy, Desmond reveals to her that he was an assassin, but ran away when he was a teen. He didn't believe any of the stuff his parents taught him, but now realizes that they weren't kidding. The next day, we hop back in the Animus. It turns out Altair wasn't actually executed, but it was just an illusion that Mualim somehow conjured. He took away all our weapons and equipment, so now we only have the bare bones of an arsenal. These hands. Mualim wants us to relearn the way of the assassins. There's a traitor within the city, and we have to find out who by gathering information. By eavesdropping, pickpocketing, and the most assassin thing of all, beating the ever-living crap out of someone to the brink of death to get them to give us the information that we need. The game is essentially teaching us the usual layout of the missions. We gather information, then plan accordingly, then assassinate our target. Except this time we don't assassinate him, we kinda just drag him back to Mualim and question him. The guy tells us that he's decided to join the Templars, and that's why he opened the gates for them. Mualim then kills him. Huh. I guess we technically assassinated him. So far, this portion has been a second tutorial basically. This is their way of explaining how a master assassin has to start from zero. Having all our gear taken away makes sense. However, the part that doesn't make sense is that Altair has all his skills taken away as well. Did Mualim suck the skill out of Altair's head or something? How is that even possible? Ubisoft most likely wanted the player to get a feeling of progression over the course of the game. And if we had everything right off the bat, the only progression we'd be making would be learning the game's story and being able to play the game better skill-wise. He tells us that he has a list of 9 men that he wants us to assassinate. After we kill them all, Altair will have restored his rank in the order. Our first target is a merchant named Tamir of Damascus. He gives us back our sword and hidden blade. The hidden blade is really cool. Remember how I mentioned that Snake bends his finger in a weird way when wearing the Altair costume? That's because, to use the hidden blade, one must remove the ring finger. It's supposed to be symbolic, like, in a way, you are married to the Creed. But instead of wearing a ring, they cut your finger off. I think Ubisoft wanted this game to stand out and have its own iconic thing. So now whenever we hear about Assassin's Creed, we think of hoods and the hidden blade. It sure would be weird if they made a game without those, right? I've always wanted one, but I feel like I'd end up stabbing myself one way or another. You can also flick the blade out whenever you want, without arousing suspicion. Since the blade is, hidden. Having that in the game isn't needed, and it doesn't really do anything other than have something to fidget with. But to me, being able to do this has been sorely missed. Let me flick the blade again, man, come on. We hop on our horse and head towards Damascus. Here we are introduced to the overworld, or the kingdom map. It's the map connecting all the cities together. The kingdom map is pretty bare bones. There are NPCs wandering around and occasional settlements. Riding to another city actually feels like riding to another city. Since the map is so big, we have to cover a large amount of area, going from one city to another. It feels kinda wasted, as this map is essentially used only as a hub. There are parts that look so cool, having really interesting looking architecture and designs. But we'll probably only see these once, maybe twice at maximum, as shortly after we travel to all 3 cities, the game lets you completely bypass this map by letting us fast travel straight to either one of the 3 cities or fast travel back to Masyaf. For a game from 2007, it doesn't look terrible. The map is pretty big, so the resources I guess are spread thin. There's a lot of pop-in, and everything looks kind of bland. The cool style to do at the time for games was to make everything brown and gray. I'm guessing that makes games look more realistic, but in the end, it kinda just makes the game look nasty. There are collectibles in this game all over the map in the kingdom and in every city, but I can't be bothered with collecting them in this game. I'll touch on the exploration mechanics and collectibles more thoroughly later on. Oh, and if you lose your horse, you're gonna have a bad time. Since the map is so big, the last thing you want to do is walk to the next city. So there are horses sprinkled all over the map. We don't really keep any of the horses though. We kinda just play medieval GTA, or GTH, I guess. Taking them when we need them, and leaving them wherever when we're done with them. I don't know why, but everyone that's not an assassin or civilian in the overworld is after your ass. If you ride even a little too close to them, they become hostile. It makes sense later in the game, but for now, we're just a guy with the sword riding a horse. We can fight them, but right now, it'd take forever with the sword. So I'm just gonna ride straight to Damascus. To get into cities, we usually need to sneak in, or fight our way in. In every city, there are opportunities for us to help civilians, and in turn, they will help us. Either by having bodyguards that help us when we fight near them, or scholars which we can blend with, and safely pass through checkpoints without arousing suspicion. Damascus looks absolutely beautiful. It even has a slight orangey tone to emphasize the warm temperature and liveliness of the city. It kinda looks like Mos Eisley from Tatooine. The streets are filled with NPCs, buildings, and stalls, which make the cities feel that much more real and immersive. Once we're in town, we have 2 options. Either we gather the bare minimum information on our target, go straight to the Assassin's Bureau, and get the go-ahead to kill our target unprepared, or we gather all possible information we can first, then head to the Assassin's Bureau and assassinate our target fully prepared. I've beaten this game many times over the years, and as far as I know, other than for completion, it doesn't really matter whether you gather all the information or not. I never really even use the information I end up gathering. Just go there, kill the guy, and done. For the sake of this video, I will try to see if there's any information worth talking about. The information we gather can range from where they'll be and when, what the target is doing, how secure the target is, and what we can do to make things easier before the assassination. Here's an example of what I mean by make things easier. You get a bunch of crap like this. The beams which cross the central courtyard can be accessed. You can find that out by just jumping around the rooftops. Speaking of jumping, the movement in this game is really polished. Altair's movements just look and feel really nice. Well, most of the time anyway. It feels like the game is doing so many calculations to make the parkour system work. You can climb things, jump left, right, or backwards whenever you want to. And when jumping rooftop to rooftop, Altair's animation is prepared for whatever we're about to make contact with. Either we keep running on the next rooftop, or he does a roll from a higher fall, or he gets his hands ready to grab whatever is climbable. There are so many possibilities, and the game accounts for all of them. If none of the above, he kinda just bumps into the object and falls down. I first got this game on the Xbox 360, so I've only ever played the Assassin's Creed games with a controller. Having to hold the A button and the right trigger to sprint feels kind of bad. If you have to hold down the A button to run, how are you supposed to move the camera with the right joystick? For myself, during the Halo 3 days, I eventually started holding the controller in a weird way. I was able to keep my thumbs on the joystick while having access to the face buttons. Later on, I learned that I wasn't the only one that held a controller this way. This way of holding the controller is called the claw grip, and is how I've been holding the controller for the past decade and a half now. I do have two complaints though. A minor one being that Altair climbs so slow in this game. It's a lot faster than what I can do in real life and what the average person is capable of. However, compared to the other Assassin's Creed characters, he is by far the slowest one. The second is a more annoying one. Every now and then, in rare moments, Altair just jumps whatever direction he wants. Not often, but when it happens, it's so frustrating. Back to the story. Regardless of what we do, we'll always have to go back to the Assassin's Bureau. There's a bureau in every city, and the assassin there will usually point us in the direction where we should gather information. We find out that Tamir is an arms dealer, and he's been selling a high number of weapons recently. We stand amongst the crowd, waiting for an opening. In this cutscene, he violently kills one of the people producing weapons for him.
You should have kept your mouth shut! No! Stop! Stop? I'm just getting started. No! Stop! You came into my souk, stood before my men, and dared to insult me?
That's messed up. Let's punish him. Once he's done, we just walk up to him and give him the good old hidden blade. A very funny thing happens whenever we kill one of our targets. Funny in a weird way. We get treated to a scene of Altair gently cradling whoever he just stabbed. And the guy usually confesses something or gives us some information. Tamir tells us that what he's doing isn't just for the money, but for a higher purpose. And there are other people involved as well. In his dying breath, he questions Altair. There are a lot of other arms dealers, so why would Altair specifically only target this one? Is there something Mualim is not telling us? Yeah, so this is where it gets kind of funny. We just stabbed the guy, and everyone, including the guards, are just watching us talk. Everything resumes after he's done talking, and then we get chased. Our objective after killing our target is to lose the guards, and then return to the Assassin's Bureau. There are so many unanswered questions right now. Such an intriguing mystery. It makes you want to continue the story and find out what's going on, right? Well, too bad, because Desmond once again gets ejected from the Animus, and we get another modern day section. Lucy has once again convinced Vidic to let us rest. Talking to Lucy again, she gives us access to her emails. She's really trusting of Desmond. There's not really much to read now, so we head to bed. Every night we sleep, we get a glimpse of something. The following day, Desmond asks Vidic what's actually the goal of putting him in the Animus. Vidic doesn't tell us much, but essentially, they are aiming for world peace, and Altair has to show them where something is. Back in the Animus, Altair has returned to Masyaf. Letting Mr. Mualim know about our success, he returns to us our short blade, and the ability to counter attacks. I'll go more into this in a bit, but just know that the game as of now has been completely trivialized. Our master has now given us two choices. Either head to Jerusalem first, or Acre? Acre? How do you pronounce that? It's pronounced as Acre, but Acre or Acre with an accent. I'm just gonna go with Acre. I don't really want to mess up the pronunciation for the next 30 minutes, so let's head to Jerusalem first. Jerusalem looks grand and majestic. There's a slight green tone to the city. It kinda makes the city feel ancient and more natural. This is where we were earlier when retrieving the treasure. Heading to the bureau, the assassin running things here is... oh no. It's Malik. That's an Akko Taco. We did get his brother killed and get his arm amputated, so obviously he's pretty reluctant to help us.
It is your duty to locate and assassinate the man, Altair, not mine.
You'd do well to assist me. His death...
He lets us know that the man that we're after is named Talal, and that's pretty much all the help we're getting from him. I didn't like him initially, but I guess he's alright now. Oh god, kill me. And now that we got the short blade back, I can now fully go into the combat mechanics. We mainly have two weapons we could use when fighting in this game, the sword and the short blade. I can say that the combat in this game is fun. With the sword, you can do light and heavy attacks. They're pretty self-explanatory. The light attack being faster but less damaging, while the heavy attack is slower but does more damage. The heavy attack is also used to deal with those pesky enemies that seem to block too much. You can only do light attacks with the short blade, and it doesn't do as much damage as the sword. The trade-off being it attacks significantly faster, making it the ideal weapon for dealing with a bigger group of NPCs that are weaker. That's what the game tells us anyway. Our third weapon is the aforementioned hidden blade. Unlike the previous weapons mentioned, this one can neither attack nor block. It's mostly used for stealth kills, but this is where the counter comes in. With the ability to counter, Altair can now seemingly deflect any blow, sometimes landing free hits, and other times landing free kills. The time window for counters change depending on your weapon. Countering with a hidden blade has the biggest risk and reward. The time window is the least forgiving, being the shortest of all the weapons. However, a counter with a hidden blade is a guaranteed kill. Though the counter does require the bare minimum of skill to get the timing, once you get the hang of it, it completely trivializes the combat in this game. Fighting 20 guys, just wait for them to attack first and counter them till they die. All the counter kill animations look brutal and feel so satisfying. There are also times where enemies would end up on the floor, whether by you grabbing them and throwing them to the ground, or you do a counter and they end up falling. Once they're on the ground, the fight with them is as good as over, as you can just wail on them as they lay there defenselessly on the floor. You can even use the hidden blade on them for a quick kill. We also have the ability to taunt enemies. From personal experience, the taunt is pretty bad though. Once you taunt, you can't cancel the animation. So if the taunt taunts the enemy, and they swing at you, you can't block or counter it, making the skill pretty useless. It's like a paradox. You taunt them because you want them to hit you so you can counter them. But by taunting, we don't have time to counter. Okay, upon further digging, I'm not sure if this is even a taunt. It doesn't do anything in melee range, but Altair is pointing at the guard, so I assume it's a taunt, since it has no other use. I couldn't even find anything online about this. Later on in the game, we get a few more abilities, like dodging and a defense break. The two of these skills feel pretty redundant though. The dodging kind of feels like the devs forgot we have a counter. It's used the same way as the counter, but instead of counterattacking, you just jump out of the way. So I don't know why you would choose to use this over the counter. For the defense break, once again, it feels like the devs forgot that we have a heavy attack. This move will leave an enemy defenseless for 1 second, letting us land a free hit on them. But the heavy attack achieves the same thing, all in one action. So when it comes down to it, the light attack and the heavy attacks, along with the counter, is all you need in this game. You can add other skills into the mix if you're bored or want to spice things up. In the end, the combat is still fun, and that's all that really matters anyway. Gathering all the information I could, Talal seems to be a human trafficker who is good at archery. He's been selling people to Acre as slaves, and he is located in a warehouse. Arriving at the warehouse, the door closes behind us, and we see slaves locked up. Talal speaks to us, and tries to convince us to see things his way, and Altair isn't buying any of it. He regrets leading us here, as he thought he could change our mind. Yeah, you're gonna have a hard time pitching, I'm a human trafficker, but it's not as bad as it looks.
Step into the light then, and I will grant you one final favor.
He throws his men at us, then makes a break for it, so the chase begins.
Get your ass back here!
He doesn't get far before... In his last moments, he lets us know that the people that he kept locked up were either prostitutes, mentally ill, or very sick, and that he wasn't looking to profit off of them, but to help them instead. He tells us that Mualim isn't the only one with plans, and that we are naive to kill someone just because someone told us to. Altair says, "No you," and Talal takes his last breath. Returning to Mualim, we let him know what the targets have been saying, and he basically tells us not to listen to them. They are just trying to mess with us before they die. After all, would you believe a human trafficker? Our throwing knives are returned to us. The throwing knives in this game are pretty overpowered. One knife can kill any guard, except for Templars and the assassination targets. Initially, Altair can only hold 5 knives. As we go on through the game, the amount of knives we can carry are increased. If you ever run out, you can just pickpocket NPCs for more. The throwing knives always felt like they weren't implemented very well. You had to select the short blade, lock onto an enemy, then throw them. Altair automatically switches from throwing mode to short blade, depending on how far the enemy you've locked onto is. It's a bit awkward to access, but the only skill needed to use them is how fast and accurately you can lock onto an enemy. We get an easy kill, and get to look and feel super skilled, all without needing skill. In later games, you have to aim things manually, so it feels more rewarding when you land a ranged attack. Along with the throwing knives, Mualim has given us the ability to tackle. What? I don't really know why you can't tackle people unless Mualim gives you permission. Normally when running without tackling, you trip after bumping into 2 people back to back in quick succession. The first guy gets you off balance, and the second guy trips you. The skill is very useful when you run through crowds while being chased. I always thought it looked hilarious having a guy run down the street while bulldozing everyone in the way. Next, let's head to Acre. Arriving here, it looks dreadful. The colors are heavily muted, with a light tint of blue, emphasizing the cold and almost polluted looking atmosphere. A lot of NPCs here seem to be ill, either psychologically or physically, and a lot of them wear tattered clothes while begging you for money. Heading to the bureau, we're informed that our target is Garnier. Isn't that a shampoo? During our investigation, we bump into this dollar store He-Man looking guy.
Mercy, mercy, don't kill me. I'll do anything you want. He makes me say these things to keep the people from revolting, to give them hope and make them eager for his...
Tell me everything you can about the man.
Yes, of course. I know what happens within, what he really does.
Go on.
Not sick, not wounded when they enter, but once he's got his on them, then the pain begins.
He's no healer then. Just a sick, cruel man.
I don't know what it is he does to make them cry so loud, but it must be stopped before more are made to suffer.
He lets us know that Garnier is doing some pretty messed up stuff to the sick people. It sounds like he's a doctor and he's in charge of the ill people that Jerusalem sells them. Dude, we gotta kill him. I'm trying to spread out all the mechanic explanations, by the way. I don't want this video's first half to be all mechanics and the latter half being all story. Now that we are exploring Acre, I'll finally go into the exploration mechanics. The most obvious thing to bring up, that I think a few of you are probably asking how come I haven't covered it yet, is of course, the world famous Ubisoft Towers. These days, a lot of, not even just Ubisoft games, use the concept of Ubisoft Towers. It's where there are multiple towers all over the map, and after doing some form of a puzzle, we unlock objectives and map markers in the area surrounding the tower. This is a super early concept of the tower. We climb up, synchronize with a viewpoint, and it will now show us civilians being harassed that we can save, or what are basically the side quests in this game. By side quests, I mean the information gathering I've mentioned before. Eavesdropping, pickpocketing, and beating up people for information. The first 2 I mentioned are self-explanatory. The fist fights, on the other hand, can get really stupid sometimes. You listen to a guy preaching, then follow him into an alley. Simple enough. When the fight starts, that's when the shit show starts as well. With all the fighting skills we have with weapons, Altair never learned any with his hands, other than to punch and block. So this leads to fights where it just looks like 2 drunk guys beating the shit out of each other in the back alley. If you start the fist fight near thug NPCs, they join in. And now, we're getting fisted from all directions. However, if you focus on just the guy we're here for, everyone leaves us alone to talk after he gets knocked down. There are a few more that I haven't mentioned yet. They're like maybe 2% more complex. Those being escort missions, oh god, where you just follow a fellow assassin, killing all guards that attack him. The thing with these missions is that you're escorting another assassin. Why the hell can't they climb on rooftops like us? And they choose to walk in a speed akin to those who have a stick lodged up their anal cavity. Can't they at least use stealth? There's another one where you have to kill guards that the assassin marked for you. For some reason, we're not allowed to be seen, as if Altair isn't allowed to show his face or something. It adds challenge to the task, but it makes no sense. The last one being time trial flag collecting. I find these pretty fun. You get to test your parkour skills. However, the amount of time they give us to collect the flags is a bit generous though. They usually give us 3 minutes to complete the task, when I think a minute and a half is enough already. With all the information gathered, it seems like Garnier is some sort of doctor. He's allegedly healing the mentally ill, but it sounds more like he is experimenting on them in some hospital fortress. Returning to Rafik. Wait, wasn't that the name of the guy in the Damascus bureau? Hold on. Okay, so Rafik isn't a name, it basically means leader of the bureau. Damn, I guess I learned something new about the game today. Heading to the hospital, we are met with a grisly cutscene. One of the prisoners, or patients, escaped from the hospital. However, Garnier's guards dragged him back in.
I'll be along once I've tended to the other.
You can't keep me here. I'll escape again.
No, you won't. Break his legs, both of them.
That's brutal. Sneaking in with some scholars, we find him and give him the blade. Before he dies, he tells us that all he wanted to do was cure the sick. He buys the prisoners from Jerusalem in order to heal them. Apparently, his guards used to be mentally ill as well, so they're living proof that Garnier can heal the mentally ill. He claims that we stole something from him that could have helped made healing everyone a lot easier. Something called a piece of Eden. Another person claiming that they were actually doing something good, while doing something messed up. Another lie, perhaps? Mualim says so. We then get pulled out of the Animus again, and apparently it's overheated. Talking to Lucy, we ask her why she works at Abstergo. She tells us it's because Vidic saved her life. Basically, everything in her life was going wrong, and at her lowest, Vidic offered her a job. She sometimes wonders whether Abstergo had anything to do with her life going downhill in the first place. We head back to our room to go sleep. But when we head in,
Someone's been in here.
Desmond notices that his underwear drawer has been gone through by someone. Looking around, it seems like someone has left the door code there. Trying it on the door, it opens. Lucy seems to be gone now. At her computer, it seems like she has left her password there. Snooping through her emails, it seems like she is slowly starting to distrust Abstergo. We can also go on Vidic's computer as well, but we don't have the password. So we head to bed and see another flash of something. The next day, Vidic wakes us up. He seems to be in a good mood. Lucy has upgraded the Animus, and we can stay in it longer now. Hopefully that means we'll no longer get pulled out of the Animus again. To teach Vidic a lesson for finally being in a good mood, we sneak up behind him and steal his password. Back in the Animus, Mualim gives us 3 more targets. Okay, I swear this game is messing with me. How do you even read these? Okay, I'm gonna do my best, whatever, man. Next in the shopping block is Abul Nuquod, the merchant king of Damascus, Majd, the regent of Jerusalem, and William of Montferrat. I'm just gonna call him William. He also returns to us our gamer gloves. Whenever you miss a jump or slip off a roof, holding the open hand button will have Altair grab onto a ledge. This will either save your life, or save you from having to climb all the way back up. So these gloves are pretty useful, and they look pretty cool too. Along with the gamer gloves, we've also regained the ability to perform a grab break. When an enemy grabs you, you are no longer forced to just watch as he throws you to the ground. Pressing the open hand button in high profile mode, we're able to get out of the grab. So we won't be rolling on the ground anymore. It's been a while since we've been to Damascus, so let's head there first. Heading to the bureau, we speak to the Rafik again. I can't really tell, but he's either being really sarcastic or mocking us, or he just doesn't get social cues.
I envy you, Altair. Well, not the bit where you were beaten and stripped of your rank, but I envy everything else. Oh, except for the terrible things the other assassins say about you. But yes, aside from the failure and the hatred, yes, aside from those things, I envy you very much.
Anyways, we start our search for Abul Nuquod in the rich district of Damascus. While running around, there seems to be a few hidden mechanics that the game never explains to you. There's a wall run side jump. You can run up a wall, and at the highest point, you can either jump left, right, or backwards. I never learned about this until the 3rd game. It's a really useful technique to use, making climbing a lot more efficient. Altair could reach higher doing this than he could normally running up a wall. Another useful one is the shock mechanic. Occasionally, when in a fight with more than one enemy, one of the NPCs would either taunt you or recoil in fear. Sometimes mid-fight, they would get bored or suddenly have a headache. When they do that, their guard is down, and you can just use the hidden blade on them for an easy kill. Last, a less useful one, air assassinations. If you're standing on a ledge and there are NPCs beneath you, you can actually assassinate them with a hidden blade. You can even style on them by running up a wall and kick off of it for a really cool looking kill. However, that counts as a high profile action though, and everyone in the area gets alerted. It's cool to do, but you can get better results by just walking up to a guy and stabbing him. And it's not always accurate. Sometimes, it prioritizes civilians walking by. After gathering the information needed, I feel like only one of them was usable. That being Abul Nuquod is throwing a party at the palace. Everything else is, there's food and guards at the party. I'd be surprised if there weren't. And you can climb on this thing or that thing. Oh, and also, apparently, he hates everyone, including himself.
Huh? Good luck with that. He rarely leaves his chambers.
Why? Is he afraid?
Not fear. Hate. He hates himself as much as he hates the people he pretends to serve.
What the hell am I supposed to do with that information? Leave a car running in the garage while playing Iris? Well, with all this information, let's head back to the bureau and get this assassination started. Arriving at the palace, there is a feast and a party going on. Abul here pulls a Jesus and turns water into wine.
I trust everything is to your satisfaction.
When suddenly, it's poisoned. Okay, I have to admit, one of the intel we got wasn't as useless as I initially thought. It told us that we can use the statue to reach Abul faster. Seeing us, he starts running away. How the hell is he so fast? We catch up to him and give him the blade.
Be at peace now. Their words can no longer do harm.
Why have you done this?
I'll be honest, I have no idea what he's doing or why. He mentions that he poisoned everyone because he's ugly, and he's sending money to people that we already know. He says the usual, "We're not so different, you and I," speech, and then he peacefully passes away in our arms. Well, the running theme here is the target says this, and Mualim says they are lying. Returning to him, he says that it's good of us to question things, but stop asking questions, and that we'll know the answer when we no longer need to ask for it. What the hell is he saying? Getting a closer look at Mualim, I wouldn't be surprised if Vidic was supposed to be a descendant of his. They both have similar faces and they both seem to be the shot caller in the story. Wait, how come Mualim has all his fingers? Looking back at it now, it seems like Altair is the only one with 9 fingers. The only assassin who has less fingers than us is Malik with 5. And even then, he had 10 at the beginning of the game. Were they just messing with Altair about the finger removing thing? Maybe it was just a very mean prank that only Altair fell for. Like every other time, Mualim gives us back some of our stuff. We get a new sword. This sword is basically a damage upgrade for the original sword. We're gonna see this sword a lot in this series. Like, a lot. Next, we head back to Jerusalem. Visiting Malik, he seems to be less hostile this time, and actually compliments us for once.
What's this? You're actually asking for my assistance instead of demanding it. I'm impressed.
In time, maybe he can forgive us. He lets us know that Majd Addin can be found in the Port District. Strange, isn't he the regent of Jerusalem? So why would he be there? Everywhere I go, I would see flags and Templars, beckoning at the inner completionist in me to collect them. There are 2 types of collectibles throughout the game, flags and Templars. There's not really that much to explain. You find the flag and collect it. You find a red helmeted Templar and just stab him. Whenever you fight a Templar, it's really cool. All the other guards will take a step back and form a circle around you, while the 2 of you fight. Unlike the other games, there aren't any map markers for these, so you'll have to actually find all these naturally or use a guide. I've noticed that a lot, if not all, the Templars usually seem to be guarding a chest. I wouldn't be surprised that there was originally going to be a loot or gear system in the game. Somewhere along the way, it probably got cut, and these chests that the Templars are guarding are most likely just remnants of the gear system. The thing is, there is no loot or equipment system in this game. All the upgrades and equipment you get are from Mualim. He drip feeds them to you bit by bit throughout the game. In turn, there are no stores in this game, and with nothing to buy, there's no money needed either. We can pickpocket these guys, but only as a way of refilling our throwing knives. And that's why, specifically for this game, I don't do the collectibles. Because the only reward we get are the achievements. Since we killed Garnier and Talal, 2 types of NPCs now roam the cities more than before. The first one being beggars. Being beggars, they obviously beg you for money. But when you try to climb away from them, they throw rocks at you, knocking you down. The second being these mentally disturbed individuals. They roam the streets, and when you get near them, they shove you. Remember these guys. They're gonna come back up in a minute. The best way to deal with either of these NPCs is to give them a gentle nudge in the face. After that, they leave you alone. If the developer's goal was to create 2 obstacle-like NPCs, I would have to say that they succeeded, as these NPCs are annoying as hell. It seems like Majd is currently standing in for the king, and while he's been in power, he's been executing people left and right. And most of these people aren't even criminals, but they are people who get in the way of his plans. He'll be holding another execution very soon. Returning to Malik with what we found, he lets us know that one of the people being executed is an assassin, so we have to make sure that he doesn't get executed. Wait, if he knew all that, why did he make us do all these investigations? At the execution, Majd is giving a speech. 2 people from the crowd attempt to rescue one of the prisoners.
And all of you stand idle, complicit in this crime.
As soon as we were able to move, my cover gets blown immediately. You see this guy here? Yeah. He shoves us into a guard. Then that guard shoves us back into the guy. I feel like a tennis ball. Look at this. This is some bullshit. Well, on the bright side, since all the attention is on us now, the assassin that we're supposed to save is safe, along with the other prisoners. But now, we have to take on a whole armada. With all the new skills we've acquired, the fight's pretty easy. And eventually we take down Majd.
Your work here is finished.
No!
Majd says that killing all those people benefits his brotherhood, and he admits to being power hungry, saying that Altair would have done the same. Altair says maybe he would have back then, but has learned his lesson of being too prideful. Altair then performs rule number 2 of Zombieland, double tap. The game kind of bugged out for me here, and the hidden blade didn't actually come out. So it's more like Altair aggressively facepalmed Majd to death. Returning to Mualim, Altair is at the end of his patience. He demands Mualim to tell him what our targets have in common. He finally tells us that all the men that we've been systematically hunting down have been Templars. With that one answer, Mualim has regained Altair's trust. And now we go after William of... let's just go back to Acre. Arriving at the bureau, the Rafiq lets us know to start our search in the rich district. Compared to the previous guards, the ones here look more well equipped. It's only cosmetic though as far as I know. They still die pretty easily. One of my favorite things about this game is the Jank. With the controls being so responsive, we can make Altair do a lot of funny things. My favorite one being when you hold down the leg button while rapidly hammering at the high profile button. And the community favorite, Dinosaur Walk. When doing the gentle push, we move our arms to the NPCs near us. A lot of times, we just end up awkwardly putting our hand on them. The parkour, though polished, has a few janky things that would happen every now and then too. Even the dead bodies do really weird shit sometimes. The cutscenes in this game are hilarious. During most cutscenes, you can move around freely. At times, you can get uncomfortably close to people, to the point where they are talking right at your face. Or you can roleplay being edgy by not looking directly at people when they talk to you. Of course, this game's aim at the time was to be really realistic and immersive. The Jank obviously does the exact opposite and reminds you that you're just playing a game. That's not necessarily a bad thing though, as it just makes me laugh my ass off. So regardless, I'm still having fun with the game. Nothing I've mentioned is game breaking, and most of the time, you have to go out of your way to do them. With the information gathered, it seems like King Richard is returning to Acre today. He and William don't see eye to eye, and William will most likely head back to his corner to cry afterwards. There's also mention of a third person involved, but that's about it. There's no really mention why we're killing him either. We head back to the bureau and get prepared. Soon enough, we see King Richard make his appearance, along with William. Apparently, William killed 3,000 prisoners, who were supposed to be hostages. And understandably, King Richard is pissed, since this will fuel the opposing army with hatred, making the enemy stronger. He berates William and leaves. I guess that's a reason to kill him. He committed a war crime. That war crime being his haircut. He kinda looks like Drake. We climb above him in his corner and wait for the perfect opening. And,
Rest now. Your schemes are at an end.
What do you know of my work?
I know that you are going to murder Richard and claim Acre for your son Conrad.
For Conrad, my son is an arse, unfit to lead his host, let alone a kingdom.
after stabbing him, there seems to be a lot of information that I missed. Either I didn't pay attention, or the devs just didn't think this was important. Altair initially thought William was trying to usurp the city from Richard for his son Conrad. Maybe that's the third person involved that was brought up earlier? I don't know. There seems to be a lot of missing information this time. William tells us that he was trying to free the city of rulers. Out of nowhere, Altair asks about food being stolen. And William tells us that he is stockpiling the food for emergencies. I swear, I didn't hear about any of this stuff during the investigations. Regardless, same theme as usual. Someone who allegedly has noble intentions that were misunderstood. We then get ripped out of the Animus again. Vidic gets a phone call, and apparently the assassins are attempting to rescue Desmond. Vidic leaves the room, and we have a brief conversation with Lucy. She informs us that the conflict that started between the assassins and Templars never ended. In fact, we are being held prisoner by them this very moment. Abstergo Industries is the modern-day front for the Templars. If you have an eye for detail, you might have seen that all the crosses on the Templars so far has also been on a badge that Vidic wears on his coat this whole time. Before leaving, she leaves us with an ominous message.
The answers to all of your questions are right in front of you. You just have to know where to look.
Maybe she is talking about the emails, so let's take a gander at them. There is nothing new in Lucy's emails, but we are also able to check Vidic's emails this time as well, since we stole his password earlier. There are two interesting emails, one in the inbox and the other one in the deleted folder. The one in the inbox hints that Abstergo is keeping a close eye on Lucy, since she has shown signs of distrust recently. The other email is strange. It mentions something about a metal ball making people kill each other. Other than the emails, there's not much more to this room. There is another room visible through the window, but for now, we are unable to open the door. Now that I think about it, since you could relive your ancestor's life, how far up could you go? Up until Desmond was conceived, or can you play into the future as your father? I think in 2 of the games, you play as someone who already has a child, so it's safe to say that you're not forced to play as the child. That'd probably be some form of torture. Give us the information we need, or we'll make you live through your own conception. That'd be pretty messed up. Well, there's not much else to do, so we head to bed. Another glimpse of something. In the Animus, we're back to Masyaf. Mualim can be seen holding a metal ball. When we ask about it, he tells us the origin. It's called the Apple of Eden. This is what Garnier mentioned earlier, when he said we stole a piece of Eden from him. Mualim claims that it has all these mystical powers, but as of now, it just looks like a fancy metal ball. He gives us 2 more targets. Jubair, the chief scholar of Damascus, and Sibrand, Grand Master of the Knights in Acre. Mualim cautions us to be careful, as word of our actions have spread through the kingdom, and we're now known as the Man in the White Hood. It kinda makes Altair sound like he's in a different group. Mualim also gives us another sword. Okay, this sword looks exactly like the sword we got last time, except it has a slightly different handle. With the new handle, it does even more damage than the last sword. Kinda stupid getting swords as a reward back to back. Next, let's head back to Damascus. At the Bureau, the Rafik tells us that Jubair can be found in the Middle District, south of the Bureau. With the game being called Assassin's Creed, it's a given that there are gonna be stealth mechanics. The stealth in this game feels kinda bare bones though. When guards see you act suspiciously, the yellow anonymity indicator on the synchronization bar would eventually turn red. Then the guards would attack. Once they are hostile, they sometimes have like X-ray vision or something. I could run from one end of the city to another and they would still magically know where I am and be right on my ass. Most of the time, it's easier to just kill everyone after you than it is to try to outrun them, break the line of sight, and then hide. I really appreciate this small detail. The guards aren't like a hive mind, meaning if one guard is chasing you and you run by a guard that has no idea what you did, they don't join in the chase. There aren't any hiding behind the structure animations implemented into the game, so peeking behind corners and hiding behind walls is all done by the player manually. Sometimes, if you prepare a jump, you could technically crouch behind a short wall and break the line of sight. Along with the stealth system, there's also social stealth, where Altair can seemingly blend into the crowd. Ironically, Altair can't actually blend in with the crowds, as the guards can pick us out instantaneously. To be fair, we are covered in weapons. However, we can sit down on benches as the guards run right by us, or specifically only hide in groups of 4 scholars by pretending like you're praying. You can also walk on your own while praying. When you pray, for some reason, all suspicion on you is gone if you haven't killed anyone, despite the fact that, like I said before, you're strapped with weapons. You do, however, walk at a sloth's pace though, so that's a trade-off of not being detected. There are also the roof gardens and the haystacks that you can jump into. The guards will never check any of these places if you broke the line of sight before hiding. Ideally, you would want to draw as little attention to yourself as possible. If we charge into a crowd knocking everyone over, obviously the guards are going to keep an eye on us, even if we technically didn't break any laws. Altair can also gently push people out of the way without knocking anyone over. It's more like an awkward caress. Can you imagine doing this in real life while walking through a store? People will probably think you're a crackhead. Definitely not speaking from personal experience. The punishment for being detected isn't even that bad. When detected, you have to either fight guards or run away from them. So, if you wanted to, you can just rush at the target, kill every guard, and then just kill the target. After all, if everyone is dead, there are no witnesses. As you can see, the idea was there, but the concept wasn't fully fleshed out yet. You can still be stealthy if you tried, but with the stealth being so dependent on factors outside of your control, it makes it hard to rely on. Jubair can be found in the madrasa. What the hell is that? And he's planning on burning all the books. He's dressed like all his other followers, but he can be identified by the pouch that he wears. We wait for him at the madrasa, and a bunch of robed men can be seen burning books. Soon enough, one with a pouch appears, so that must be our target. One of them tries to reason with Jubair, saying that books are helpful and filled with knowledge.
You are wrong. These texts give the gift of knowledge. We need them. You love your precious writings. You do anything for them? Yes. Yes, of course. Then join them.
Hearing that heresy, Jubair pushes him into the flames. I'll usually say, damn, that's pretty messed up. But the way he died seems kind of off. The fire is so small. Couldn't you have rolled off? And the guy died within seconds of touching the fire. Anyway, this is a breath of fresh air from the other missions. Instead of sneaking up on the target, we had to find the correct one and kill him. This is probably the only time where Eagle Vision actually has a use. Using Eagle Vision on the wrong target would highlight them in red. So following that strategy, we find Jubair, the one that glows yellow. I tried sneaking up on him for an air assassination, but I kinda flopped it. In the end, it still worked out.
Why? Why have you done this?
Jubair's argument for burning the books is kinda not convincing. He just says, you killed me, you're doing the same as me, destroying knowledge. That sounds so stupid. I wish I could stab him the second time, like we did for Majd. The guy's logic made no sense. With that done, we head back to Masyaf. Mualim gives us a better short blade. It does more damage than our previous short blade, but more importantly, instead of having a brown handle like last time, this one has a silver handle, so it looks a lot cooler. We have one last target left before Robert, that being Sibrand in Acre. So we head there next. At the bureau, the Rafik tells us that Sibrand runs the port in the Middle District. Isn't that enough information already? So, while running around the docks and jumping on the boats, I was reminded of one of Altair's weaknesses. His kryptonite and Achilles' heel? Water. Altair cannot swim. And I didn't bump into this problem until now simply because this is the closest we've gotten to water this whole game. Huh. Master Assassin can't even swim. To be fair, the NPCs seem to be unable to swim as well. And now that I think about it, there's other weird stuff about Altair too. Like, he's the only one with an American accent, when that wasn't even a thing yet at the time.
For what? Does Salah ad-Din intend to strike from sea?
No, it's not he we defend.
He just sounds like Desmond roleplaying in a Renaissance fair. You ever stop to look around and realize that there aren't any kids walking around this game? The devs probably didn't want us killing them or anything, so that's understandable. I guess we can just blame that we're inside a computer simulation, and that the Animus still hasn't been perfected yet. Is that bird crap? That's nasty. Sibrand, like I said earlier, will be found at the docks. He has been confiscating ships to use as a blockade, denying King Richard of reinforcements even though they are, on paper, on the same side. He's also grown very paranoid, since he knows we're coming for him. There was this one moment while eavesdropping, we see Sibrand berating some guards. Logically speaking, since he's out on the streets, I thought this would be a perfect time to give him the blade. Little did I know, he was surrounded by a mini army. I mean, I should have known, since the conversation we just eavesdropped had Sibrand saying to double the guards. I'm 100% sure he pulled a Batman and was probably untargetable, since it'd be pretty anticlimactic killing him right here. With that said, we now head to the docks for the assassination. At the location, Sibrand seems to be completely consumed by paranoia. He has singled out a random scholar, saying that he's the assassin, since he's wearing white robes, even though there are multiple scholars in the crowd wearing the same stuff.
William and Garnier were too confident, and they paid for this with their lives. I won't make the same mistake. If you truly are a man of God, then surely the Creator will provide for you! Let him stay my hand!
You've gone mad! Will none of you come forward to stop this? He is clearly poisoned by his own fear, compelled to see enemies where none exist.
Seems the people share my concern. What I do for Acre!
He kills him, then paints a nice target on himself by putting on this distinctive helmet. So, just in case he looked too much like the other guards, we now know he's the one with the unique horned helmet and a bow with arrows on his back. We make our way to a ship, where he can be seen talking to himself. It's the perfect time and place to strike, so we give him the blade. Ugh.
Don't do this. You are afraid.
Altair asks Sibrand why is he so afraid, and Sibrand tells us it's because of the treasure. It proves that there's no afterlife. In his dying moment, he tells us that the blockade was to keep others out while they free the Holy Land. And guess what time it is? Modern day section time. Desmond wakes up from the Animus once again, and we hear Vidic talking to another man. He seems to be rushing Vidic to find the piece of Eden, and to deal with us when it's done. Vidic leaves, and we speak to Lucy. Lucy flat out tells us that we have to stop whatever it is that they're planning.
We have to stop them, Desmond. When they access that last memory of yours, they're just getting started. They want to change everything. The way we live, the way we think, the way we are. You've gotten the lecture from Vidic about what's wrong with the world, how we need order and discipline, so they're going to give it to us. Only we don't have a say in the matter.
Asking Lucy about the piece of Eden, it turns out the Templars already had their hands on that same one, but it was destroyed in some accident. This is where we find out that there's more than one. Abstergo is hoping that Altair would somehow be able to tell them where the rest are. Basically, Abstergo and the Templars' plan is to find these pieces of Eden and use them to create a world of order and peace. They've been finding and gathering them even before Altair's time. With these relics, they essentially control the world from behind the scenes. Using the artifacts, they've somehow made almost every major medical and mechanical breakthrough in history, never taking credit for any of it to stay hidden in the shadows. And the only thing we know about these artifacts as of now is that they were left behind for us to find from those who came before. By now, it seems like the mysterious person that has been secretly leaving us hints must be Lucy. She's the one that dug through our underwear drawer and left us the key to the door. We are left with so many questions, and none of them answered. After she leaves, we dig around their emails again. There appears to be a deleted email on Lucy's computer. She's been in contact with someone from the outside the whole time, leaking information about what's going on in here and us. Lucy has requested for a rescue. The last reply, they seem to be posing as spam mail, but if you read only the capitalized letters, it spells out, "We will be here soon." This brings up even more questions. On Vidic's computer, there's an email giving us a code to the door that we couldn't get into earlier. However, we are still unable to go into that room. The room is covered in cameras. How has Desmond not been caught snooping around yet? Maybe Lucy messed with the cameras. We sleep, and once again, we see a brief flash. The next day we wake up. Vidic tells us that he knows that we've been going through the computers. So I guess that answers that question. Back in the Animus, Mualim tells Altair that both the Assassins and Templars share the same goal, that being world peace. The main difference being, the Templars want the peace of Eden to control everyone into submission, while us, the Assassins, want peace through free will. And because of that, the two factions will never get along. Our original sword is returned to us, which is another damage upgrade, and 5 more throwing knives on our shoulder, so now we hold a total of 15 throwing knives. Our synchronization bar is also maxed out too, meaning that Desmond is now fully synced with Altair. Our last target is Jubair de Sable, and he is where we fought the first time we met, Jerusalem. At the Jerusalem Bureau, it seems like Malik is no longer on our ass, and Altair has changed as well. They both finally seem to be at peace with each other and themselves. Malik tells us that Jubair can be found in the Middle District, so we make our way there. There seems to be a lot of variety to the guards, appearance-wise, but depending on which city you're at and which district you're in, they wear different armor, which, after playing the last couple games, I've grown to realize that I've taken that for granted, looking at you, Origins. Although the future games have new types of NPCs, the variety in their appearance slowly starts to shrink. The guards in this game suffer from bad guy syndrome. Even when surrounded by multiple foes, it seems like they only attack you one at a time. Another funny thing is, when we hide from them, the same guard that was looking for us moments before do not recognize us walking right past them. With how smart, or unsmart the AI is, we could do really wacky stuff like this. The security here is so tight. We can't even fart without half the town jumping us. Every time I get into a conflict, it seems like the entire city is on my ass. There's never been a group with less than 8 guards. Here, we do what is probably the hardest side quest in the game. This guy gives us a minute to reach the other guy for information. Why a minute? If he has information critical to the mission, he wouldn't be like, "Aw, gee, it's time for lunch, screw everyone else and just leave." And that's not even the worst part. Since everyone is looking for us, as soon as we run, they start to attack us. I try rushing to the other guy, but we can't interact with him if we're still in conflict. And I don't know why, but Altair suddenly starts acting like he took 11 shots of vodka. The climbing became so inaccurate. Look at that, is he narcoleptic? There was a point where I got so annoyed, I just started punching him. It took me 6 tries before I got to the other guy. Look, I made it with 1 second left to spare. Well, we got all the information. It seems like there's a funeral being held for Majd, and Jubair will be attending. Returning to the Bureau, Altair and Malik have a heartfelt conversation.
Fortune favor your blade, brother.
Malik, before I go, there's something I should say.
Be out with it.
I've been a fool.
Normally I'd make no argument, but what is this? What are you talking about?
All this time, I never told you I was sorry. Too damn proud. You lost your arm because of me. Lost Qadar. You had every right to be angry.
I do not accept your apology.
I understand.
No, you don't. I do not accept your apology because you are not the same man who went with me into Solomon's temple. And so you have nothing to apologize for.
Malik.
Perhaps if I had not been so envious of you, I would not have been so careless myself. I'm just as much to blame.
Don't say such things.
We are one. As we share the glory of our victories, so too should we share the pain of our defeat. In this way, we grow closer. We grow stronger.
This is the one conversation in the game to stick with me throughout the years, because it highlights Altair's character development. At the beginning of the game, Altair was stubborn and prideful. After messing up and having everything taken away from him, he slowly learned the errors of his ways and became a better person in the end. Outside the funeral, I decide to quickly go into Eagle Vision to see what we're dealing with. I'm pretty sure that's Jubair right there, but he's not yellow, which means that he's not our target. Weird. Halfway through the funeral, Jubair seems to have caught on that we're here.
We have tried to track his killer, but it has proved difficult. These creatures cling to the shadows and run from any who would face them fairly. But not today, for it seems one stands among us. He mocks us with his presence and must be made to pay. Seize him! Bring him forward, that God's justice might be done.
So the guards come out and the fight ensues. During the fight, you can hear a muffled voice of a woman giving orders. So it's safe to say that whoever is under that helmet is not our boy. Either way, we give her the blade.
I would see your eyes before you die.
I sense you expected someone else.
What sorcery is this?
I love that Altair's first reaction to seeing a woman is to call her a witch. Really accurate to this time period. So, even though we figured out that this is not Robert, Altair hasn't. He takes off his helmet so he can look at Robert's eyes one last time before he dies. But it's a woman. She tells us that this was a distraction. Robert is actually riding to Arsuf, hoping to have the two warring armies join forces. Oh yeah, I didn't mention. During the span of this game, Jerusalem is at war with Acre. But now it seems like the assassins have killed important people on both sides. So Robert is looking to use that as an excuse to unite the two armies, uniting them against the assassins. Since this woman isn't our target, Altair decides to let her go. That's his choice. However, I still get a say in what we do. So before making our escape, I give her one good punch in the face as a goodbye present. Now that I think about it, this is the only woman to have any role in Altair's story so far. Back at the bureau, we let Malik know what happened. Altair suggests Malik and the assassins to look a bit deeper into the people that we've killed so far. Mualim is definitely hiding something. But we don't have time to head back to Masyaf this time, since Robert would have accomplished his task by then. So we have to ride straight to Arsuf. On my ride there, I avoided all fights, but there were a lot of guards going hostile while seeing us, which got me thinking, why didn't Altair just change his clothes? They're calling us the man in the white hood, so wearing anything other than white at this point should have been the first thing we did. Arriving in Arsuf, it seems like we came right in the middle of a battle, and we have to fight through what is probably half of Saladin's army. Even in the back, you can see an endless amount of crusaders marching to war, once again highlighting to us that this is a war zone. Getting a chance to mow through a whole army makes Altair look and feel unstoppable, emphasizing that we really are playing as a master combatant, leaving nothing but a trail of bodies behind us. After decimating a fraction of two armies, we finally reach King Richard and Robert.
Hold a moment. It's words I bring, not steel.
Offering terms of surrender then. It's about time.
You misunderstand. It's Mualim who sends me, not Salah ad-Din.
Assassin! What is the meaning of this? And be quick with it!
You've a traitor in your midst.
And he has hired you to kill me? Come to gloat about it before you strike? I won't be taken so easily!
It's not you I've come to kill. It's him.
This is the fight that the game has been building up this whole time. Robert de Sable against Altair, Cape against Hood, and Bald against... probably not Bald. And it's pretty underwhelming. As I said before, the counter absolutely trivializes the combat in this game, especially in a one-on-one scenario. He does have plot armor though. When we throw him on the floor, our regular attacks phase right through him. And before long, we give Robert the blade.
It's done then. Your schemes, like you, are put to rest.
You know nothing of schemes. You're but a puppet. He betrayed you, boy.
In his dying moment, he lets Altair know that it wasn't 9 men that knew about the Apple's secret. It was 10. And the 10th being Mualim himself. Our master has been a Templar this whole time. And that was why he knew every target in such intimate detail. And Robert takes his last breath. Talking to King Richard, he says he will refocus his sights on the opposing army, admitting that he doesn't want peace, as it is in his nature to fight. And maybe in time, the war will be over. With that said, at the apex of the story, we once again get pulled out of the Animus.
Get up, goddammit! Listen!
Oh no.
Seems your assassin friends found us.
What?
How'd you do it, Desmond?
Hey, look, I don't know what you're talking about, but whatever's going on down there has got nothing to do with me.
It seems like assassins have gotten into the building. Most likely from the email that Lucy sent. Vidic leaves the room. Speaking to Lucy, Desmond seems to have lost all hope. He knows that he will most likely be killed after the Templars get what they want. But Lucy tells him to have hope, before doing a very peculiar gesture.
Just try and have a little faith.
No, this is not the shocker. Well, it is, but it's not supposed to be. This is her showing Desmond that she's an assassin. Lucy has been a double agent this whole time. After she leaves, we start digging for emails again. The door can finally be opened today, and in that room, we find a laptop. There is only one email here. We learn that we are Subject 17, meaning that there were 16 other subjects before us, all who were probably forced into the Animus. That's most likely why Lucy knows not to go in there for too long. The other subjects probably went to the Animus for too long and died. With nothing left to do, we head to bed. And get another glimpse of something. I'm pretty sure it's going to be explained soon since the end of the game is coming up. The next day, Vidic wakes us up, saying that this will be a historic day for everyone. Well, almost everyone. He kinda alludes to killing us soon, which is pretty morbid. Heading back in the Animus, Altair is back in Masyaf, but something feels off.
Templars, did they attack again?
They walk the path.
What path? What are you talking about?
Towards the light.
This guy sounds brainwashed as hell. I give him a good punch in the face, but that's not enough to snap him out of it. As we walk through the village, the brainwashed inhabitants creepily follow us. Near the entrance of the castle, some brainwashed assassins attack us. This fight feels kinda like an action movie. The timings between attacks are a lot shorter, making more things happen faster. I wish there was a non-lethal way of subduing them. I feel kinda bad since they're acting against their will. After we dispatch the first group, an even bigger group follows. In the middle of the fight, all of them either drop dead or run off, as throwing knives rain down from above. It's Malik and a few other assassins. They arrived just in time.
Altair, up here!
He lets us know that after we left, he investigated the ruins where we found the artifact, and there, he found Jubair's diary, which pretty much confirms that Mualim is a Templar. That's cool and all, but why would Jubair leave his diary there? We tell them to stay outside and watch our back, while we head in to confront our master. In the castle, we find all the other civilians, just standing there, watching us. We make our way through the crowd and into a familiar garden, the same one where we were in at the beginning of the game, meaning that this is the memory that Vidic wanted. When suddenly, we are unable to move.
What's happening?
Mualim is using the piece of Addin to bind us. He then summons every man we've hunted down. This portion is pretty easy, since they all seem to have 1 HP. After we deal with them, Mualim teleports down. He then uses Shadow Clone Jutsu to summon copies of himself. Damn, that ball can do a lot. Beating them all, Mualim holds us with the power of the apple again. Altair asks him why didn't he just mind control him as well. Mualim then says, "If I mind control you, all your skills will be gone as well." I have no idea what accent that was. Afterwards, he admits he did try by showing us the apple a while back, but realized that we're immune to the illusions. I'm having a hard time understanding what that means. The ball doesn't work on us, then what the hell have we been fighting this whole time? Did he actually perform the Shadow Clone Jutsu? And what about bringing back the dead? Maybe he means that he can still conjure illusions, but he can't specifically mind control us. Mualim then proceeds by using his illusions on us by taking away Altair's life bar. So since Altair's immune, he's breaking the fourth wall by giving us an illusion. The illusion of triggering an epileptic seizure by making the screen annoyingly flash. This part is pretty annoying. We can't even be hit once, and every time we damage him, he teleports away. This feels like I'm freaking playing hide and seek while someone is constantly spitting in my eyes. After dying a few times, I found a pretty funny way to bypass the one-hit kill problem. When we find Mualim, we just chuck a throwing knife at him, repeat that a few times, and we're good. Then I end the fight the most fitting way I could think of, by performing a hidden blade counter, and then one more stab for good measure.
Impossible. The student does not defeat the teacher.
الشيء واقع مطلق بل كل ممكن.
So it seems.
I don't really know what Altair is saying here, since the game has no subtitles. Hold on. He says nothing is true, and everything is permitted. And that's been said a couple times before by other assassins. It's a mantra for the assassins throughout the game. Before Mualim takes his last breath, Altair tells him that he'll destroy the piece of Eden. Walking towards the apple, we can hear Mualim whispering to us in our ear.
I perceive that this also was a chasing after wind, for in much wisdom is much grief. And he that increaseth knowledge increaseth sorrow.
And as we approach it, it reveals to us a map.
Destroy it! Destroy it as you said you would.
I can't.
Yes, you can, Altair. But you won't.
Altair stares at the piece of Eden in awe, unable to bring himself to do what he said he would. Perhaps he's been captivated by the power of the apple. This must be what Abstergo and the Templars have been looking for. A map that shows where all the other pieces of Eden are.
We've got it.
We are then ejected from the Animus one last time. Now that they have what they wanted, the problem of us still being alive gets brought up. Luckily for us, Lucy convinces everyone to let us live.
You know how these things work. I doubt we'll be able to walk right in.
What's your point?
We might need him. His memories. I'd recommend we hold him until we have confirmation that there aren't any surprises waiting for us at the sites.
And as they walk out, it seems like Desmond has now gained an ability from Altair. Desmond can now tap into the Eagle Vision. Seeing this when I was a kid blew my mind. I was like, the numbers! What do they mean? It started so many internet theories back in the day. Everyone was coming up with their own interpretations. Of course, in the end, it was a lot less cool than everyone thought it was. We find out what these actually mean in the next game. What has actually happened that this game didn't explain until the next one is that Desmond is going through the bleeding effect. When one enters the Animus for too long, they start to gain the abilities of the person that they were living as. This was shown to us earlier in the game without us realizing. Altair had to pickpocket during his missions. Then Desmond was able to get Vidic's password without him noticing. And now, he's inherited the Eagle Vision.
What the hell is that?
As Vidic and Lucy walk out, we see Vidic in red, and Lucy in blue. I think that's a plot hole and kind of a retcon. If you played the 4th and 5th game, you know what I'm talking about. We can now freely walk around the lab and find all these weird markings on the floor and walls. I think this is what Lucy actually meant when she says that the answers are right in front of you. Heading back to our room, we see this on the wall, right above our bed. Remember that flash we see every night? Well, this is what that was. Every night, the Eagle Vision slowly manifests in Desmond, resulting in him using it without even realizing.
What does it mean, I wonder?
And that's the first Assassin's Creed game. There's kind of a post-game. You can re-enter the Animus and replay the missions, collect the flags and Templars. Oh, and you get a really weird reward for beating the game. You can now kill or beat as many civilians as you want, without Altair losing any health, since Desmond is now fully synced with him. To me, the game kind of feels more bare bones than I remembered. The side quests are technically part of the main quest, and the activities that we do in them are cool at first, but get more and more repetitive as you do them. Just gather information, kill a guy, gather information, kill a guy, talk to Daddy Mualim, get some new crap, and repeat. If the movement and the combat weren't so polished, the game would have been a lot more dreadful to go through. The Malik side story was a nice touch too. It highlights Altair's character development, showing him as a dynamic character in the story. Though the game pulling you out of the Animus is annoying and kills the pacing, the story is just so intriguing, and I'm not sure if doing it any other way would have achieved the same effect. We get a hint that Mualim seems to know more than he lets on, then we slowly unravel the story with Desmond. If we did all the assassin stuff in the beginning, then ham-fist the Desmond plot after, the player may feel like there's a lot dropping onto them all of a sudden. We get little nibbles of each plot bit by bit, setting up more mysteries for both of them. It does leave a lot of questions unanswered though, like what exactly are the pieces of Eden? Just how many are there? Who made them and what happened to them? And the game implies that a lot of mythical and major events happening in history may be related to these artifacts. The alternate timeline that this game built is just so well done and interesting. It does suck that this game kind of abruptly ends after Altair sees the map. We are left with a cliffhanger with Desmond locked in the lab. At the time, we didn't know whether there would be a sequel or not. Is this how Desmond dies? What are the Templars planning? Will we ever find out? Well, a lot of these questions get answered eventually. I'll go over the sequels on a later date. As for now, there seems to be a high demand for more Mega Man Battle Network videos, so I guess I'll get to it then. If I was able to make you laugh at least once, please leave a like. And consider subscribing if you want to see more videos like this. Feel free to comment or suggest games that you'd like me to eventually cover. If you have any suggestions or advice on how I can do the videos better, please let me know, since I'm still learning and I would like to get better at making videos. Well, until next time, thanks for watching.